afternoon, everyone. How are we? 4 of you with me so far, which is lovely. Thank you for joining us. So yes, thank you, Nick, for reminding me that I got the wrong week again, which I seem to do with the acrylics class all the time. I've been reading the wrong one all week, haven't I, when I've been telling you all what's coming up next week. And I have no idea why I've suddenly started doing that on the acrylics. It's me that books the lessons, it's me that puts the dates in, it's me that decides the subject, and I still can't get it right. In fact, it wasn't next week's either. The Yosemite National Park is September the 8th. It's because I was looking at 8 and thinking it was August. We've actually got 3 lessons. Another lesson, sorry, in between that. We've got a fiery sunset with billowing clouds in between the one that I posted this morning. So I do apologise. I can't help it. But I can't change what we've got because people do book these lessons specifically on subjects. So yeah, this week is the side gates of Wardington Manor and advertised in everything apart from what I've said. And then next time on the 25th of August is Fiery Sunset with Billowing Clouds. Then on September the 8th is Yosemite National Park, which is what I posted this morning. So very sorry about that. But this is a nice one anyway. I may not be able to use Discord today, so apologies for those of you that go onto Discord. You'll have to talk amongst yourselves. And the reason is the cafe is closed today, but because it's closed, I have to listen out to the shop door. My CCTV only covers my shop, not the whole of the building. So I can't tell when anybody's in the cafe or not, and I need to know what's going on. So I can't have any music on today, and I can't have anything in my ears. I've had to turn my mini air conditioning unit off because it's too noisy, and I've just got the fan is on the lowest setting possible above my head, and even then I'm going to struggle to hear the door. So it's not ideal today, but so apologies, I won't be on Discord today. So as usual, you'll have until about 1:15 to sketch it out. Now, I've tweaked mine a little bit. I have made my gate slightly open. And all I've done with that is I've made a little bit of a gap, which you can't see. Doesn't rub out very well on canvas paper. And just widened the bottom a fraction. So hopefully you're all okay today. If you notice, it's got one of the balls missing off the top of the gate, one of the spheres. So you could add it if you wanted to, or you can make it look like it's old and ruined. It's nearly always closed, this gate. This is from the inside of the manor looking out. And it's to the side of their tennis courts. Under a canopy, it's like a little path on the way around. So apologies to Discord, I won't be on Discord today because I need to keep an ear out. I have got Jackie for a little bit, but hello Rosemary, but once Jackie leaves I'm going to be stuck. So yeah, unfortunately no Discord for me today. It wasn't planned about the cafe being closed, but they've had to do something quite urgent, and as such they're having to deal with that. So it means it's just me. Let's go a little bit further. No, Christine, I absolutely agree. I am melting here myself. So yeah, watch the lesson and maybe paint later. Yeah, do you know, the gates you could actually do. I've drawn them in just so I've drawn them in. But we're going to be painting over it. So if you draw it in and you're quite a thick painter rather than an impasto painter, not any slight on your personality as a thick painter. If you paint more impasto, you may find that you cover it up. But also, even if you paint quite runny, you could spread the pencil anyway, so you won't necessarily see your lines anyway. But I've drawn them just so you can tell it's this drawing, and that I've opened the gate. But I'll show you a cheaty way. Snickers. It's right, I've had a nut from my Snickers just decided to manifest itself in my throat. No, I'm alright. Yeah, leave the gates for now. And in fact, if you've got a permanent liner pen, you can put the gates in afterwards instead of trying to make... Good afternoon, Marie. Yeah, you're not on your own. I think everybody's going to be watching this afternoon and wait until the weather cools this evening or even tomorrow. I didn't think it was going to be this hot today. So, for those of you, if you are on Discord chatting to each other, if you could let anybody that's joining that may be disappointed that I can't talk to them why I can't go onto Discord this afternoon, that would be really, really useful. I'll be able to do it tonight. It's just while the shop is open and it's the whole ground floor isn't manned. I need to be able to spring into action, which is no mean task in weather like this, I can tell you. So I'll go through the colours, because some of you may be sketching. There's not a huge amount to sketch today. We have white. I'm going to try not to squeeze too much out, because I always squeeze double the amount out. Tonight's drawn to acrylic class is the giraffe and baby elephant. Not giraffe, it's a flipping elephant. It's not a oh dear me, it's an elephant and a baby elephant in water that we did in pencil last week, and this week we're going to do it in acrylics. It's a beautiful one, and it's had a lot of people really enthused about it, and it'll be very different in acrylics tonight. And we're going to work on, I've got to tint my paper to make it more of a browny green for the water. But it is, you're right, Nick, it's too darned hot. It's too darned hot. I never sing that one because all the vintage girly singers sing that one. I don't sing a song about how hot it is, do I, Jackie? I sing a song about sunshines, but that's about it, really. Not very many blokey songs about hotness, so to speak. Right. So, I can't remember if I actually told you these colours. I didn't tell you them. I just squeezed them out. I was talking about songs. Titanium white, ultramarine, lemon yellow, cadmium red, burnt sienna, black. Whether the heat will get me and I'll make even less sense than normal, I have no idea. Stay tuned and find out how I mess up this week. Burnt umber is perfect. Any brown will do. Brown. So I hope you all had a nice weekend and are not suffering too much in the heat. It is ridiculously uncomfortable. This is not what British summertime should be. It should be cold and rainy. That's what it should be. We're not used to it. Although, saying that we're not used to it, it's kind of becoming the new normal now, isn't it? Because we had a really, really hot spring, didn't we, during lockdown? I mean, that was glorious. That was summer weather. And last year, if you remember, we had that 3-month stint in the spring of mega, mega hot weather. So maybe this is what we've got to get used to. So as a ginger, I'm going to have to find ways of surviving. Maybe I have to emigrate to the North Pole or Canada. Okay, 5 more minutes just in case anybody is sketching out. I'll treat it as if it is, so when you watch it later you'll have time. And thank you for 6 of you for joining in. I'm anticipating more people to join in after. Well, it's a bit warm. It is a very blue sky. What happens, because I take photographs on my smartphone, which is not a bad camera at all. But what happens is that if I want, as cameras are cameras, they bleach the darks or they heighten the darks and lighten the lights. So to try and offset it, so I could see this, because this was showing up all black, the foreground, I had to tap the screen and change the light setting. But what it did is it made the blue sky white. Now if you look around the trees where it's thinner foliage, you'll see there's a blue glow around it all, and that's because that's the real colour of the sky. But it just disappeared. So it isn't a creamy white sky, it is a blue sky. But in order for me to show the foreground, what I often do, warm blue, Rosemary, warm blue, cool yellow, warm red, brown, black and white. What I've started doing now is I've taken 2 photographs. I take one photograph of it as it is with the blue sky, then I take another photograph in exactly the same spot with the heightened foreground, then I merge the 2 together to give a more realistic look. That's what I do. Right, I'm going to start in a second. The usual brushes. Where is it? Oh, come on. I'm mainly going to do it with a small flat brush. Warm red, yeah. Cool yellow, warm red. So white, black, warm blue, cool yellow, warm red, and brown. It's right, because Rosemary, Nick, and a few others have got the chromacryl sets, and they don't have colour names, which is actually quite helpful. They just go with warm or cool, which is kind of more leans towards the way I've always taught. I have issues with the terminology of warm and cool in terms of the colour world, because it is only by association, so a warm colour can look cool when it's next to a different colour. However, in terms of choosing colours, it actually works better. Hello, Trish. Yeah, fine, Chris. Yeah, it's just my upset, because I told you yesterday morning that we were doing Yellowstone. It's awful that I can't even know what I'm teaching myself, but never mind. Right, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to work a little bit quicker because of the weather. So I've got a little bit of white on my brush. Brush is slightly damp, just to help the paint move, and a pinhead of ultramarine, and I'm going to brush this through and out. I don't want a strong blue, but I want it blue enough. I'll show you. A strong blue will work, look. A strong blue will look lovely. But I don't want it to detract. Where are you going to go in 2 weeks then, Chris? So this is just blue and white. If you really struggle to mix the colour on the surface of your paper or whatever you're using, the best method, the quick fix, is to just mix up the bluey colour on your palette beforehand, so you're painting with the blue rather than trying to let the colours naturally mix. And I always find it better to add more sky than I need to, because then it shows through when you're doing your foliage, because you can't always make sure the foliage is in the right place. I'm really looking forward to doing Yosemite National Park in 4 weeks time, 5 weeks time, 4 weeks time. I really am, because it's such a beautiful image that we're going to be doing, and you've all seen it now. Really stunning. So I look forward to seeing what you create, Chris. Yes, is it going to be more of a UK based holiday instead, or are you just waiting to see about the Menorca thing? So I'm going to let that dry. It's not going to take very long to dry today, or it'll dry in patches. If you go in too quickly, you'll end up lifting it off. So it's always better to go a little bit longer. I'm not going to put the hairdryer on today because I really don't want to add any extra heat into the room. Thank you very much. Right, I'm just using my towel. Let's wait a minute or two. Nothing will harm a work by letting it dry. No harm will come to it. Gosh, isn't it warm? I don't know what the temperature is at the minute. Too hot, that's the temperature. Right, I'm going to go with some lemon yellow and a little bit of ultramarine. Maybe a little bit more ultramarine than I want to have. And I'm just going to stipple. In fact, this is a decent grass colour as well, so I'm just going to go down to here. So stab, stab, stab. Stab, stab, stab. Yellow is quite transparent, so I know I'll still be able to see my my lines through it. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow later on to this as a highlight. looks a bit weird at the moment because we've not distinguished between grass and foliage. I'm going to add a little bit more blue. And maybe we'll do. What I'm going to do is a little dance. No, what I'm going to do is to put a white glaze over this. Sorry, my brain's just not functioning today. I can't get any of my words out, can I? I do apologise. So this is not runny paint. So if you're used to more of a watercolour mix, it's nothing like that. This is a quite a dry, stabby mix. And I'm leaving some gaps between the two. So it's still lemon yellow and ultramarine, but a little bit more ultramarine is in this mix to make it slightly darker. If you feel it's too emerald, which you are entitled to feel, you might decide to add a tiny pinhead of red, but in doing so it will change it and you may find it goes a little bit brown. So just be a bit careful if you're adding a third colour. As we've said before, colour mixing works quite nicely if you're mixing two colours together. Where you start to mix a third colour is where it could all go wrong. I'm hoping it will have cooled down for our elephant painting tonight, Nick. I really am. Maybe just a little bit poking out here. It's going to be darker anyway. Darker leaves over the top, but it's quite nice just to have some differentiation. But this is like layer 1. I always put at least 2 or 3 layers of tone on my foliage. I put my darkest layer on first, then I add the highlights. Because that way it makes life a lot easier. Now the light is sort of coming from the top left, so I'm not worrying that these are a lot punchier than the colours that I would normally add on. Not worrying at all. So if I've just dipped my picture, my reference picture, in my brown paint. It's going to be one of those days. I need to cut that off because it's going to go everywhere if not. I can't believe I've done that. The fan caught the breeze. You know when you have one of those days, yeah? Oh, don't get too excited, Nick. It puts me under pressure to actually do a good job. Right, if I want to highlight these two a little bit more. So if I add a little bit more yellow and a little bit of white. And a bit stabby. But I am going to put a wash because this is just to set the scene. It is not hugely integral to the painting, but it'll look nice. So the white makes it more opaque. It does make it more milky, but that's all right. And then I want to highlight. I am going to clean my brush because it's gone very, very thick. But the trouble with cleaning your brush a lot is that you get more water in the bristles, and the water in the bristles actually dilutes the paint and stops it from being stipply. So I'm going to go, so you can see I'm being a bit nonchalant about it. I'm not trying too hard because it doesn't hugely matter. So I've just got a bit of lemon yellow, white, and I'm adding a tiny bit of the green into that. And with that, you see, I can add highlights to the back area and the grass. Now this is a bit thicker, so it does mean I'm going to lose a little bit of the grass and the fence. But it is just about playing about, really. But hopefully you can see there now that we've actually got some sort of distinction between the back trees, and that lighter green that I've put in there does bring it out just a little bit more. So as usual, I like to confuse you all and do things in different ways, and that won't ever change because I'm naughty. So I'm going to show you different ways of doing things today. The right hand side will be, because it's sunlit, we will paint in what is known as a local colour, and a local colour is the colour of an object without light or dark. So then we can lighten it and darken it. On the left hand side, which is in shadow, we're going to paint it black and then add the highlights to it because it's all shadow. So that's the difference for today. So we've gone just for straight light colours in the background. We're going to do local colours in the mid, and then the left hand side is going to be black with highlights. Isn't that going to be fun? Yes, Barry. What I'm going to do is paint the black first because that will give us a chance to dry. This is scary, but worth it. So don't panic, Rosemary. I know you've not done acrylics very much before. This is probably your third time. And I hope doing this won't make it the last. It is scary. I'm not going to pretend painting black across the painting. It is scary. However, it really, really works for depth and definition. We have got foliage and stuff to put on. So this isn't much water. Don't want to get my sleeve caught in this black. I might use a thinner brush for the fiddly bits on this one. Oh, put a little bit of black down here. And what this does is it prepares the surface. As I've said to you before, a long time ago, I can still remember when music used to make me smile. Artists would, both watercolourists and oil painters would put a raw sienna wash over their work before they start to tint it and make it lighter and all of that kind of business. Whereas when the pre-Raphaelites came along, they didn't. They went back to medieval methods or Renaissance methods of painting in thin glazes of colour over their work on a white surface. And what that did is it made a huge difference to the paintings and made it look like it was glowing, which is nice, but they all were hated because the paintings didn't look like the normal paintings of its time. So this is black. I'm just using a smaller number 1 brush, this is, but brush sizes are all irrelevant because they're different depending on manufacturers, and not just manufacturers, they're different depending on each design of brush, because we've got some brushes that are made by the same company and the brush numbers don't actually make any sense, because a size 8 in one brand from the same company is actually a different size to a size 8 in another one, so it is quite frustrating. I'm going to use this now just to do some black blobs. You're going to get a punch from Rosemary if you keep calling her Mrs. Wayne Mannering. She'll track you down, you know. So this is an undercoat, an undercover. Quite a lot of leaves here. Now you could do it with a bigger brush, but I want more rounded shapes of foliage. But you can see how this black, this darkness actually really helps create the effect, and how much lighter it's lightened the background. I was going to put a whitewash over these colours, the green, but actually I don't think I will. I want that lightness and the vivid brightness from the sun. I do love putting black down. Oh, I'm sure you will. If you're right, are you all on Discord together just without me? Because I'm sure she'll tell you off. And rightly so. You little scamp. Oh, you're a chicken, Nick. You're a chicken. I'm sure she'll catch up with you. You'll catch up there, Rosemary, because I'm going to do nothing once, because I've got to wait for this to dry. Bye.
Yeah,
Because this black's going to take me ages anyway to get in how I want it, so you can see it clearly. And I've got my walls gone wonky. Better. So it doesn't matter that you've got lots of pencil or paintbrush marks on the black at all, because it's not going to be really. It's going to be seen a little bit, but not much, because of it being the undercolour, the dark bit. I know it's definitely black. It's 100% black. It's just how the camera's perceiving the colours today. The lighter bit definitely looks more brown, I think, on the camera, but it's a grey. But it's an interesting point about blacks, Nick, that there are different types of black. You've got ivory black, lamp black, and Mars black. Now, Mars black tends to be more of a blue black, whereas lamp black and ivory black are more brown blacks. So if I was using a Mars black and diluting it like I've done here just to get the colour down, you may think it's blue. So it is quite interesting. To my eyes in real life, it's sort of like a grey black, but it does look more to the brown side. So yeah, you're right. It is a tricky one. But sometimes some paints are just called black, and you don't know whether it's got blue in it or whether it's got brown in it. Can you just check I'm playing, please? Because I've lost signal.
okay.
Right, I'm going to let that side dry, and I want to show you some interesting tricks in a second. So it'll give you...
I don't like to take a sound too.
So it'll give you, those that are painting, a longer chance to catch up.
Interesting tricks.
That's fine, because I lose signal really quickly from my own thing.
Like you're fine. Got 7 people watching.
I said I was going to stop, and then I carry on fiddling. Right, I'm going to stop for 5. Then I want to show you a lighting trick for behind this pillar. Then we'll do some other bits of foliage. But it's all about contrast. Definitely black.
That's what I said.
But it's oh no, this is Mars black. No, I thought Mars black was more of a blue black. Because when we had that guy come in, he didn't want Mars black, did he? He wanted lamp black because he said he wanted more of a brown tone. But this is, that does look brownish there though, doesn't it? That bit, like a browny grey. On the camera it really looks it.
It's definitely black.
Look how much the camera has bleached out the white canvas here. You lose all of the blue there. It just looks white until I can isolate it like that. So I'll give you till about, I don't know, 1:45 to catch up with the black. Oops. But when you think about it with black, funny enough, me and Jackie were talking about this about 20 minutes before the class started, about hair, and how some black hair, like Jackie's got black hair, but when the sun's through it, it's got a brown tint, whereas other people can have black hair, but when the sun hits it, there's more of a blue tint. So blacks are either blue or brown based. Even in the natural world, they're the same. And no, I'm not saying that hair is not natural, but I know. Some browns, some blacks are more brown, some blacks are more blue. So and also the thing is with what you're doing, Nick, is you're relying on a photograph, which doesn't always give the accurate representation anyway. So it's a relay. So if you're relying on a photograph that is then printed, those are two marginal errors that will change the colour again. I mean, the printing might divert it back, or it might make it more brown or more blue. So it's quite hard to know when you're working from a reference photograph how it works and what the actual true colour is. So it is more difficult, really, I think. But I'm very impressed with what you're coming up with so far.
I'll put this down for when I get
Oh,
out.
thanks ever so much. That'd be good.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, it's Wednesday tomorrow, isn't it?
It's Wednesday.
Tomorrow
indeed.
morning. Is it going to be hot tomorrow?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh. Go and sit in some ice cubes when you get home. It's going to feel like an even longer walk, isn't it?
Yeah,
At least you haven't got to do the school run.
this is true.
Bonus.
I'm just gonna
Leave the door open.
this door.
Yeah, I can hear then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye, Jackie. I was going to say, you, hair? But I wouldn't, I'm not that mean. See, this is just too hot. Anything above 24 to me is just tropical. I can't cope with it. Okay. How you doing, Rosemary? I mean, at least with the black underpainting, it is basically just getting that dark on, because I am going to tint parts of it with colour. I mean, there's going to be foliage going over all this, so you won't see the areas that are slightly different. You should know I always give you time to reassess and catch up, but I have to be one step ahead, otherwise if I was behind then I would be teaching, would I? Although some of you, not mentioning any names, race ahead of me anyway. Don't you? You know who you are. There's more than one of you. Little monkeys. Gosh, it's hot. My hands are so sweaty. I'm struggling to pick up the brushes today. Yeah, okay. Message understood, Rosemary. Right, what I want to do is, if you look at the green bush here in the photograph, it's slightly darker, but I don't want to add loads. So you know how we add white glazes? I'm actually going to add a black glaze to the underside of this tree. So that's a glaze, don't forget, is really dilute paint. And by doing so, it's going to help bring the brightness of the pillar forward. So just black runny paint. I'm not going to do loads of it. But can you see how it's already... I know, you can't get any more ahead, can you, Chris? 2 weeks ahead. 2 lessons ahead, so that's 4 weeks ahead. Well, I do hope you managed to get away, though, Chris. I do. As much as I like you in the class, I think it was awful what... because I know you. It's for your anniversary, isn't it? Okay. Maybe a little bit of a black glaze just on here, which kind of keys and ties that in with that bit. I do love glazes. I think there's something quite special about them. As long as you all do what's best for you, whether you watch now. To be honest, if I was me, which I am most of the time, I would take advantage of these lessons being sort of online, and I would watch the lesson, then I would paint the lesson. It would all depend on what time there is, you know, what time I have. But if I was just at home the majority of the time, I think I would probably lean towards watching then painting all the time. Oh, Chris, that's annoying, isn't it? But that means you'll get your money back, won't it? Which is the main thing. Because you booked it over a year ago, didn't you? It's the trouble, isn't it? We nobody knows what's around the corner. So frustrating. So that black glaze, let me zoom in on this just so you can see. Because it bleaches itself out, doesn't it? That black glaze has now highlighted around the pillar. The light, actually, the light isn't coming from upper left, it's coming from low left. Sort of like that angle. Judging from the shadows on this bit on the photograph are of the leaves from this tree up here. So it does make a big difference. Right, so I'm going to pop in the brights on here, which I can then use to go on here. Let me zoom out just a fraction so I've got a little bit of both there, and there's not too much black for the camera to get excited over. So let's mix up our stone colour, which is going to be burnt sienna, cadmium red, a little bit of lemon and a little bit of white. I think I'm going to need more lemon yellow than I've squeezed out, you know, folks. Just thinking aloud. So don't forget, we're going to put local. This is going to be the local colour, which is the colour of the object without light or dark. I think a little bit more white as well. So that's called the local colour. There will be a test later. The local colour. For local people. So all sides are going to be equal and similar. It's hot, isn't it? This fan at a low speed is really not doing anything for me, but with a cafe open I'd be able to have it on a little bit higher, because I wouldn't need to listen to the door. Well, the cafe door is open, but I know that they would call me if I missed a customer. Trying to get bits done before coffee break, just so you can see what I'm on about. And then the way the light's hitting the ball and the doodah, it's sort of a hint. In places. So you don't want it too dilute, because if it's too dilute, what will happen is that it will look a little bit odd and not as punchy as you want it to. Oh, that's worked out quite nicely, isn't it? It's almost like I know what I'm doing. No. Add a little bit of white to it, just to have a few. Sort of a hint of light there, but I don't know. You see, what I could do is that if I do a glaze of this sort of stone colour, make it really have I just painted the camera? No, that's alright. I'll just whack my brush up the camera, as you do. So this is almost not actually paint. It's more water than paint. And what I'm doing is just indicating stonework in the shadows. And that will save you if your black is not great. Also adds interest, because black on its own is quite flat and dead. So doing this actually helps immensely with interest, even though there's sort of going to be leaves and things on here. It's going to help you, trust me. So you can sort of see it there, but not properly see it there. And the other side is going to be the opposite. And a little bit maybe just over this bit off camera. Now, of course, if when I finish and I think that's a bit too bright, that's too light, I can put a black wash back over the top of it again. But can you see the difference so far in the way the light is working? Forget the gates for now. We're not going to worry about the gates. It's just everything else that we need to worry about. I remember standing in this spot and thinking, you know what, this would make a really, really, really interesting class that will annoy my students. Actually, if you look at the photograph, it is brighter there than it is there, so maybe I should dull these down a little bit more. But there's going to be leaves and stuff over that, so maybe I won't need to. I'm ignoring the fact that it's got stone and brick on the pillar. I'm just having it as stone. It's too hot to worry about brick. You all falling asleep? Do you know what? I think I'm going to do... I'll call coffee break. And then I'll look at the light and the darks on this section. And then we'll work on this bit. Then we'll work on this bit. So if let me zoom out now so you can see the picture as a whole. Don't forget that a lot of this is my board, so that's where the paper ends. It's just that my drawing board is so paint covered it doesn't look like it, and I'm not ashamed. So if you need to grab a cold drink, grab a cold drink. If you need to grab any drink or an ice lolly, do so. And I think just after 3 o'clock we'll reconvene. So if you are painting along, it'll give you a chance to catch up. If you're not painting along, it'll give you a chance to get a drink and get comfortable. Back in 5. Sorry, Robert, I've just seen your message. The stone mix is burnt sienna with quite a bit of cadmium red, a little bit of white, and a little bit of cadmium yellow, so it goes more of a, not quite a mushroom colour, it's kind of like a yellowy brown really, and that's that colour, but then I've just added a lot of water to it to get that over the black. Ooh, I'm back. I did say 3:05, so I'm back a bit early. I just super fast today. Although I don't know why I went fast, because I'm now hot from being fast. I think the problem with this sort of heat and acrylic paints and watercolour paints, so to be fair, everything dries a lot quicker, doesn't it? And sometimes I think that's not always a good thing. But for today, it is, because it means that this is all dry, but it also means that my little makeshift palette is drying a lot quicker than I'd like it to be. So let me zoom back in again just on the lightest. Oh, that looks really rough, doesn't it? Look at that. Rough. I'm gonna have to touch that up because I didn't realise how gappy I'd left it. You just join me, don't panic. I'm not doing anything but just trying to touch up a gap that I didn't know I had. Right, so what I want to do is, I know the tree bark on the highlighted area of the tree is very similar to the stone colour, but I don't want to keep flitting about. I'm trying to be a good boy. So I'm going to have to mix that stone colour up again because it's already dried. However, I'm going to add a lot more yellow to the mix. So it's burnt sienna, cadmium red, a lot of yellow, and a little bit of white. And I'm going to apply this as a glaze. So hopefully it's quite a lot lighter than the original colour. Hopefully. So what I'm going to do is dilute that. This is more of a almost a peach colour, browny peachy colour. And I'm just going to pop little bits of this on. This corner is much lighter. And then actually I could even do with more white. Little bits just on here because you want to make it feel three-dimensional, but equally you don't want it to feel too forced to tap it with my finger. But I do want a nice contrasting line there as well. There is sort of a hint of colour there, but because I'm going to glaze it, I can let that fade away. So it's not as strong. still want that to be lighter, this side, this corner piece particularly. I might do with some thicker white and yellow mix with a hint of the stone colour right there. So that's neat yellow and white. Just helping us get the planes on the wall. Because there are stones here, and if I use the glazing correctly, I can sort of kind of do like we did with the other wall. But I will go darker in between it. That's where using these sort of colours works nicely, because you've got your brick wall kind of the width of your pencil, or your pencil, the width of your brush. You can have it a bit more of a yellow light depending on, it wasn't an evening, this was an afternoon summer fair. So for those of you that did the Monday night and last Thursday afternoon's class on the formal gardens, just doing the top and the right hand side of some of these stones. Again, we're going to put foliage over a lot of this, so I'm not really going to worry too much. And shadow. So it is, this part is about building it up and making it interesting, because the focus is on the light area of the stone. You could go further and add an almost yellow and white light on it, just in really fine places. Here and there. Well, actually that wouldn't work if that was a stone, would it? That's better. Don't tell my dad he was a builder. You can see how it sort of brings it to life. Now what I am going to do, and you won't be able to see it on the camera just yet, is I'm just going to use a little bit of that as a highlight colour on the concrete stone on the off camera. Right, so while that's drying, I'll talk to you about a shadow colour, which is going to be purple, and it's going to be cadmium red and burnt sienna. I don't want to use black because it's too harsh as a shadow colour. It's good as an underpainting colour, but as a shadow colour it's not great. So you're aiming for an aubergine colour, slightly more to the blue side, but it's going to be a glaze again. And if I show you where that can go, it's going to go a little bit darker here because this is the shadow of the foliage. Need to make that a little bit thicker. The shadow from the gate that we haven't drawn. For the shadow colour, Trish, the mix is ultramarine and cadmium red, but more bluey. So it's a bit more of an aubergine colour. You can make it, because we're working on a stone, you can make it a bit more red, but that will make it probably a bit too warm. It works quite well being a darker colour. This is just a slightly thicker version of the same mix. You see, by going less diluted, it works nicely as a good shadow colour. In its own right. It doesn't look too bad. Let me zoom out so you can get the whole effect. Let me move my paper plate out of the way. So you can see that the light is on this bit, which is what we're after. There's still going to be a bit more black to come, I'm afraid to say. See, most of this area is going to be black and then highlighted, and I'm going to make the floor a paler grey wash. I'll show you what I mean. I didn't do this whilst we were working with the black, and the simple reason is because I would end up leaning on it. But this just tints the paper. You can see where the oils off my skin have shown through. Oh, do you know what? I've just spotted in the photograph there's sort of bits of, this is my stone colour, little bits of wall showing through the foliage. So let me stick that on and let that dry. Didn't spot that before. So that's actually the brick colour, but just done as a glaze. So when I put the foliage on, it won't be as severe, or if I miss a bit, there'll be a hint of stone behind there rather than white, because it isn't going to be white. Although I think it's the tree bark I can see, however. Better to be safe than sorry. But you'll see how this gradually changes. I might use my fan brush in a bit as well. Because my aim will be that the really light bit is this section, with a few light bits in the foliage, so we can really feel like the light is coming. There'll be more glazes and stuff. We've got an hour. I might take it until the full 4:30 today. Depends how long things change. I don't like pushing you too fast and too far, but sometimes it's good to go a little bit faster and further than you normally would. So I've got trusty fan brush out, load it up with the black. Well, the reason why I've chosen the fan brush is A, because it is fir tree type foliage, but also it gives me a different look to all the other foliage that's on here. But to work the fan brush, you do need a lot more paint on it than you think. Filling in all of that. That looks alright. Maybe a little bit of the grass there is going to be dark. Oh, I might as well just shove all of this in black. But no, we'll do it properly. And of course I'll be, whatever brush you do the undercolour with, it's good to do the highlight with, in terms of foliage, just because you'll get the same sort of effect. But that said, while that's drying, we can work on this side, and that's the joy of acrylics, is that you can do this, and it works quite nicely. I don't know if the photograph is, it is that similar colour, isn't it, in the tree bark? But I don't know. Definitely want some brown in there. Definitely need some yellow in there. Let's add a bit of white and see. Try a bit of blue in there. I just don't want it to look too... I don't want the stone and the trees to look the same. You know? So this is brown, yellow and white and a tiny bit of ultramarine. I think there is a bit of red in there though. Can't escape it. And then I'm going to start looking, without leaning on this, where the light's hitting. I'm using the round brush. Paint isn't very runny, it's just slightly, the brush is slightly damp. I'll just lent on that. Did you hear it sticking to my hand? So this is almost about what you don't paint rather than what you do paint. If it's not standing out as much as you'd like, then obviously feel free to add more white to it or a bit more colour. Especially if you're having to dilute any of it, because it's when you dilute it that's when you lose the opacity of the colour and you have a few problems. See, there's not much in the way of highlights with this tree. But again, I could do the really runny stuff as a glaze if I wanted to give the impression of other parts of the branch, or the bark rather. But again, I don't want too much colour in here. Because it's not about that bit of the bark, you see. Because I want it to feel like the sun is hitting that. See, in watercolour you'd put the tree colour first, then add the shadow. But I don't necessarily think... There's no right or wrong order for any of this, to be honest. And I am actually going to use the same tree colour with a bit more red. For the sand earth, which is sort of in I don't know if I need to make it. I want to make it a bit more orange. Oh, too much. Oh, red and yellow with a bit of brown, maybe. It's better. Smudge it with your finger. And don't forget, if you want it to stand out a bit more, it's the white that will help, but too much white will change the opacity. we don't want this to look like stones. We want it to look like the dappled light through trees. It's kind of working, isn't it? And then I'm going to stop for a minute. And it would change again once the gates are in place. So it's all about constantly assessing and reassessing. All the time. Balance, light, dark, light, dark. Not sure how I've got burnt sienna all over my left hand. I'm not left-handed. And we're not going to talk about that. You're all being super quiet. Are you asleep? Or just are you afraid? Right, so we've got lots of different things to add now in terms of foliage and grass and other bits. So we've got our darks, we've got our highlights on a lot of the other stuff. Now we need to do the same with the leaves, so we'll be doing some mid-tone leaves. We've got our darks because it's the black. We've got our, and for the same for the grass. We've got our mid-tone, our darks in. We need to do mid-tone, then highlight in this one because there's more darks than there is anything else. So it should work quite nicely. So what I want to do is to work on the left-hand side with my little round brush, and that's going to be lemon yellow. Oh, let me find some lemon yellow that hasn't got any. Let me squeeze some lemon yellow out because I've shoved too much cadmium red in that. And it's gone orange. There we go. Too liberal with the cadmium red. So we'll go lemon yellow and some ultramarine. Now I'm not adding any white to it, and it's not a yellowy green for this one, it's a bluey green. So there is no white in this. And I'm going to just add... Oh, I want it a little bit darker actually, a bit more blue. That's better. And this is sort of delicately adding the leaves over some of the black leaves that we've put on. So it's almost like a highlight colour. And then don't forget that these are actually leaves. You're not just doing lots of random sporadic bits. It's got to be attached to something. Even if you can't physically see what it's attached to, it needs to have an idea that there was a branch or something there for it. I think it can be really easy just to go, oh, let's do some splodge, 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 and then you actually don't have any idea of what it's supposed to be, because you've just excitedly splodged along and forgotten why you were splodging in the first place. Well, let's never forget why we've splodged. Makes such a difference. And this is just our mid-tone, don't forget. So we were doing some brighter highlights with this. And if you wanted to slightly dull it down, you could add a little bit of black to it. And that will just give it enough of a change to make it feel like it's in the shadows and it's lurking about a little bit. So I'm just going to stay on this side for now. Then what will make this area is the really bright flashes of green around here. That will work really, really nicely. Because we've got ivy on this bit going up here. And again, that will have highlights. Use that point of the brush. I just did that ivy because it's all in the same colour. I'm going to lean towards doing this side, then move my way across, just so I'm not leaning on stuff, to be honest. I'm just spritzing my face because I'm getting really hot. Handy little thing, water spritzers. Do your face and the backs of your wrists. Be amazed how quickly it cools you down. That's my tip for the day. But hopefully you can see that lovely contrast between the lights and the darks. That's really what we want to hold on to. We don't want to cover all of those darks up. Not at all. They're crucial. So if I mix, you know, like that green there, which was the very lemony ultramarine mix, with a hint of white. I say lemony and then I don't put enough lemon in. My white's starting to sadly dry. So we've just got hints of foliage. And there's a few little areas where you can get away with just little tips of this brighter green, so it feels like the sun's just catching it. So there's a bit of white in this, and that's what makes it more opaque and standing out. Just a little bit. But it is all about the contrast. And that helps create the darks. I mean, there are going to be other bits on the grass and the gravel and all that kind of thing, but that's with a different brush. So I was trying to get all the things with the same brush done at the same time. What do you think so far? It's looking all right, isn't it? I think so. Thank you, Nick. You can come again. It is about the, you know, and sometimes I will go fast, sometimes I will go slow, and it's all to do with the reason why I go fast or slow is often to do with the paint on my palette, on if that mix is going to dry up. If I fiddle too much with one area, like if I'd fiddled too much with that background area, which I can come back to. If I wanted to put branches and things in visibly, I can do so, but I don't want to just yet. I might put a bit of shadow, purple shadow on that grass. Not sure yet. It's only 20 to 4 anyway, but it's important to look back. As I've said before, I'm really fortunate in the fact that I can see my work on a smaller screen. I'm not just looking at it in front of me, and I do think that makes a difference in how I can perceive my progress. I do recommend that if you can, at stages throughout your learning, even in doing a painting, is take a photo. And I know, Nick, you do this regularly, is take a photograph of your work, because it makes a huge difference when you see it on a small screen. When it's embiggened in real life, you can see all the mistakes that you wish you hadn't put in and stuff like that. Whereas on when it's shrunk, it actually looks like a really nice painting. So I'm seeing it on my screen slightly postcard size, maybe a bit smaller than a postcard size. I'm seeing it on my laptop screen at the moment, and for me that works nicely because I can look up and look down and I can see, even though the colours aren't exactly accurate, although they're more accurate on the smaller screen on the bottom right hand side. The other camera is a bit more high definition and it panics with colour contrasts. But hopefully you can certainly see how it's working. Almost part of me is tempting to fiddle more over here already, but I'm not going to. I'm going to wait until I've done this side. I think, you know, with oil painting, I mean, that's the difference, isn't it? You see, this fan brush is an oil painting brush, whereas, what shall I grab? Oh, here we go. Grab this from this is a watercolor brush. Now the difference is, I can't even get them both on the camera at the same time. Oil paintings are meant to be painted sort of like, so if that you know, from a much further distance, because it's slightly more abstract and free in the way it works in some styles, whereas watercolour brushes are a lot shorter because you tend to do a lot more detail and you're closer to your work, whereas with oils you're supposed to be an arm's length and a brush length away from your paintings. I never am. I'm always sitting down painting, and I don't like long handled brushes. However, you know, standing back with oils, because they're usually bigger canvases, means that you get a better view of what's going on and you reduce the detail yourself. Whereas when your face is less than a foot away, sometimes 8 inches away from the work, especially if you're trying to concentrate on areas, that's when the disheartening arrives. And also the fact, if you're not that new, if you're not that experienced in painting, whether it be acrylics or watercolor, doesn't matter, you don't have the ability to trust in the process yet, that it will work because I need to add this or I need to change that, or if it doesn't work I can change this or change that later. Don't try to get hell-bent on finishing one area. So I'm not going to do, I could do a few more lighter highlights on here, but I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to work with this side to see how it balances out. So I'm going to do a little bit of the grass, which is going to be the lemon. I'm using the old fan brush, lemon yellow and a bit of ultramarine. Mid-tone first, because we've got our dark, so it's more of a blue colour. Stipple, stipple. Stipple, stipple, stipple. Maybe a little bit more blue. If you notice, I've let my brush run out of paint. So what that's done is it's tinted that side, but actually not that much. I do need a bit more paint though now. And I think also we're often really guilty of just constantly charging our brush up with paint all the time. And we don't need it. We can, like I've done here, as your paint runs out of brush, as your brush runs out of paint, use that to your advantage on another area. I want to do the highlights though, so that's going to be with more yellow and a little bit of white. I'm getting all the grass done at the same time. Look how that looks almost white on the camera, but if I move it to camera 2, you can see it is a minty green colour, and it should tie in with the grass from the original back area. I'm going to do this in patches. And if I think, oh no, I've got too much light colour, it's not a problem. I'll just make a darker green again. Maybe even throw a bit of black in. Yellow and black make green anyway, so I don't think you're ruining anything. A lot of purists avoid black because their art teacher told them to, basically. And black is a flatter colour, it is a dead colour. However, it's one of the oldest colours known to man. So black and white were the first art colours, really. Ooh, this is looking nice. Going to be a very blue-green on here, so a lot. Now, if you're working with a fan brush, hog is better, bristle is best, because you want a stiffer bristle to allow you to stipple. Soft fan brushes don't keep their shape. I mean, this is an ancient one, so the more you use them, the better they'll work for you. And again, I am going to leave some of these areas dark. The darks help bring out the lights. So this is the lemon yellow and ultramarine, but with a lot more ultramarine. And don't forget, you've got the option that you can I know nearly all of you are not painting along today because of the weather. You've got the option to stop, pause me and move on. So I'm just going to stop for a second. Clean the brush because I want to do a highlight colour in a minute. Just here to go with this light hitting it. Then we can work on the gate and see if we need to change any of the light sources. I'm fortunate enough that I can still see my outline for my gate, and there's every chance that I'm going to do it in marker pen and a ruler, maybe ruler, instead of brush. Or would you rather see me do it in paint? If so, comment paint or pen. If you can reach your keyboard or know how to comment, just so I can work out which one to go for. See, the real arty person in me should do paint, shouldn't it really? I should do paint to show you how to do it. But then the coward in me wants to go with pen. So I'll go with whatever you tell me. So write paint or pen, and I will do it. Just letting all this dry. Then I'll go into a lighter green. But hopefully you can really see that this is our light area now. Thank you, Marie. If you're the only one commenting, that's definitely what I'll be doing. Thank you. Oh, Rosemary, thank you. So neither of you want me to be a coward, eh? Boo! Right, paint it shall be. But I will get everything else done first. So let me just mix up a slightly lighter green. You see, that's already dry on my palette. But it hasn't dried actually. Let me just go in with a bit more yellow and sort of keep those blacks. They're crucial to the feel of the scene. Not much because of the highlighting. I think I need to stipple some darks back in here. It's acrylics, we can do that. Better. Okay. Still keep it fairly dark like that. I'm not gonna. So fan brush is gonna go to bed now. Bye bye fan brush. Bye bye. Now I'm gonna turn my attention to this tree. Maybe a little bit of lemon and white like I did with the wall. Tiny bit of cad red to make it quite a bright orange. I don't want to make it too... Oh, I'll stick a bit of burnt sienna in actually. I don't want to make it too similar to the tree leaves. But I wouldn't mind just... Oh, let me tap it with my finger. Just to make it feel little bit more sun-kissed. Slightly better. Don't need to do anything to that foreground sand. I think I need to cadmium red, cadmium yellow and white. All of this is very non-important in the grand scheme of things, but to me it all helps build up the scene. Because whether it's because I come from a primary education background, I don't know, but I do like the idea that a painting will tell us a story. And it might be a different story for everybody. That's I'm just going to skim a little bit of this. Just sort of this sandy orange colour in this lighter grass area, just so it feels maybe like there is a path. You can't see it on the photo, on the picture, because it's bleached out, but I think I want people to look at a painting and imagine they're either there, or that something's happened, or that they can imagine living there, or you know, create their own story around what I've painted. So it does have to have a feeling of reality to it, even if it's not totally real. Right, so now I will, oh, it's 4 o'clock. I will do the gate. I think I've got a liner here, yeah, come in that J-car set. Might be a bit too thick, so this is how you do it with paint. You want to go with your black, because we've said lots and lots and lots of times before, haven't we, that the hardest thing with acrylics, or any paint, watercolour, gouache, doesn't matter, is that you want to get the paint fluid, but you also want a nice strength of colour. So I'm using a lot of this black, and I'm adding masses of water to make it inky and fluid. And if you notice, you can't really tell with the brush maybe, but you can with my finger and thumb. I'm rolling that brush around my finger and thumb so it retains its point. So let's go paint the gates. I'm not using a ruler. I'm feeling scared. See, if you start using a ruler, you have to finish using a ruler. That's kind of the rule. So once I've got these gates in, a bit more water, I can flick grass up above it. Now we have got segments coming down. I do feel happier working in paint, but it is a bit scarier, if I'm honest. So if it starts to feel scratchy, charge your brush and go again. So we've got swirly heart. Swirly heart. Then we've got little squiggles. Oh no, I've gone the wrong way with that one. It should go like that. Like that. That can be my error on purpose. We've got the heart there. Then It's another heart. There. Squiggle. Squiggle. All jelly beans these are, aren't they? And heart. I've probably not got enough on here. Half. So I'm going to have the gate slightly open. So slightly thicker end to that. That can have the latch there. There. And we need to go 1, 2. Now, because we've got slight perspective in this open gate, the lines are going to get a little bit closer together. Which makes it feel like it's coming towards us. But I want it to feel overgrown. And that's the door, so I'm going to have to... It might be... Oh, it's Kathy's back. Hello! I'm doing hearts all the time. I don't want to do hearts. They're hearts. These are jelly beans. Like that. Now what I will do is mix up a little bit of purple again, my aubergine colour, cadmium red and ultramarine, more ultramarine. Now this isn't in the picture, but the gate isn't open in the picture, so this is where a little bit of artistic license will come into play. Make our purpley glaze. And then I can sort of create a bit of shadow on the wall from part of the iron on it, just so it starts to feel a little bit more like it should. I'm going to let that dry for a second. I'm just going to quickly say hello to Kathy and I'll be back in 1 minute. just going to add a few white highlights on part of the gate, but I'm kind of done really. Could use a gel pen if you're doing it in pen, just to sort of emphasize that the light is hitting parts of it. Make it stand out a little bit more. But I'm kind of fiddling a little bit unnecessarily. Oh, that's what I wanted to do. I've got some green that I've still got on my plate that hasn't actually dried. And I'm going to thin that out while I've got the thin brush. And it means that I can do bits of grass. I'll actually make it a bit darker. A bit more blue. See you tomorrow. Could use the fan brush for this as well if I wanted, but I think it's nice just to have little bits of control, little tufts here and there. Maybe a little bit darker still. Because you want it to feel overgrown. Right, I don't think I'm going to do any more to that. I think I will call it a day. Let me zoom in on it so you can just see how it looks in part. Part of me is actually tempted to do a few slightly before I totally end. Get a little bit of black on the liner brush. And just do a few darker bits in the stonework. But that's just been really fussy. And now I will stop. So if you've not painted today and you're going to do it later, I am really interested to see how it comes out. Thank you, Chris. It's all about, and you see how the dark gates have really brought the contrast out and all that kind of thing. So it's been a really interesting session in your darks and your lights and your highlights and all that kind of thing. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thank you, Chris. I look forward to seeing your mountains that you did that we'll be doing in 4 weeks' time. So yeah, that's it. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much. So in 2 weeks' time in this class, in 2 weeks' time, let me get it right this time. In 2 weeks' time, the 25th of August is the fiery sunset with billowing clouds. So that'll be really good to do. So coming up this evening is the elephant and calf in water in acrylics. Tomorrow afternoon is figure practice in pencil. It's a scene of a cricket match, so it's getting figures in proportion. Thursday morning's art for the anxious is wax resistance graffito in acrylics using, you need a candle for that. Thursday afternoon is a watercolour portrait. Thursday evening is stormy clouds with a wet in wet technique. Friday afternoon is an ancient bridge over a river in watercolour. There is nothing on Saturday or Sunday. Monday morning's demo is lavender fields in acrylics, and Monday evening is the watercolour portrait. So thank you so very much for joining me. Apologies once more about putting the wrong image up again to start with, but hopefully you've forgiven me, and I really look forward to seeing what you've created. So thank you so much for your time. Take care, and I'll see you all soon. Don't get too hot. Bye bye.